Welcome to Be Provided Conservation Radio, sharing stories and information about the environment, wildlife, and the people who are dedicating their lives to protect the world for future generations. These inspirational stories will take you from the Santa Cruz Mountains to remote areas of Africa.
Hey, we're live. Hi, everybody. Hi, Suzanne.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I'm really happy today. We have Suzanne Smith here. She's the executive director and founder of the Amazon River Dolphin Conservation Foundation. We're going to be talking about the cute, pink, amazing Amazon dolphin today. And yeah, I don't know much about the river dolphin, so this will be a great learning experience for me as well. So I'm very excited to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Oh, you're so welcome. So I want to ask, how are things going? You're in my one of my all-time favorite cities right now. You're in New Orleans, but how are things going there right now with everything going on?
New Orleans has been hit pretty hard, as most everybody knows. We've definitely been dubbed one of the epicenters around the country. So it's been a little bit rough. So we've got our stay-at-home orders like everyone else, and our mayor has extended it until May 16th. So until then, we're just hunkered down and staying safe at home.
Well, good. I know it's the thing to do. Like I mentioned to you earlier, it's hard for me to imagine New Orleans in a shelter-in-place situation.
I know it, right?
Such a social city. I just wanted to start off with a little bit about your background and what you've been doing, and we'll kind of lead up to talking about the project that you have going on. So you grew up in Boston.
I'm a Bostonian originally.
So you grew up around water.
I did.
East Coast.
I did. My dad always had a boat, so spent a lot of time out on the water.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Fishing, or was it a fishing boat or a tour boat?
Fishing. It was actually a lobster boat.
Oh, okay.
So as a kid, my very first job, I actually had my own lobster pots.
Oh, nice.
That was my very first job as a kid. So my dad is a big avid scuba diver. So all of those things, I've been accustomed to for a very long time and grew up around. So that definitely led me down the path that I'm on today.
Is there a specific memory or person, was it maybe your father, who inspired you to start working with marine mammals? What was your first aha moment with that?
Honestly, I don't even remember a time when I did not want to work with dolphins in general.
Okay.
My whole entire life, that's what I wanted to do. So just with all these other interesting experiences being out on the water, I knew it was the right thing. But like I said, I never knew anything else but that.
Nice. So that was always your favorite animal? Dolphins in general?
Always.
Nice.
Always. Yep. Just the dolphins. I mean, I love all marine life, but certainly the dolphins always had the top-notch spot.
That's wonderful. I know. Isn't it funny how that sticks with us, and you were able to turn that into your lifelong passion? So yeah.
I've been very fortunate.
Definitely. And I read too, which I thought was interesting, that you worked on the rescue and rehabilitation of marine mammals and dolphins, actually, right? Bottlenose dolphins during the Deepwater Horizon spill? Yeah.
Yes.
What was that like?
I worked on the strandings. I first learned about marine mammal strandings in New England, of course, working at New England Aquarium. And then I was able to bring that skill set down to Louisiana. After Deepwater Horizon, I was here in helping out with marine mammals and helping out with the sea turtles that were so badly affected by that oil spill.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and you were able to release them back into the ocean, right? Back into the wild.
There has been one within the past few years, dolphin-wise, that was able to go back into the Gulf of Mexico. All of the sea turtles were able to go back into the Gulf of Mexico, which was awesome. Yeah. And then there were 3 bottlenose dolphins that were deemed non-releasable by NOAA for a plethora of reasons, and they now live at different aquariums around the country.
Oh, good. Oh, good. So they found some homes.
Yeah, so they found forever homes, some wonderful, wonderful places with great teams that are very knowledgeable and have been taking such wonderful care of those animals.
Smart animals. I can see why you're drawn to them. I also I started reading Cy Montgomery's book, The Journey of It. Yeah, I had to be transparent, I didn't finish it yet, but I'm working on it. So
that's okay, as long as you're working on it. And I'm not sure if you are aware, but Cy Montgomery is actually one of our board members on ARDCF with the River Dolphins. So she is a wonderful person, and she's an amazing author. So we are very lucky to have her with us.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I saw that because I just finished Soul of an Octopus, written by her, and she just draws you in, and I'm finding the same with this book about the Amazon River dolphin. So,
absolutely. Yeah. You feel like you're right on the river with her.
Exactly. I love it.
She's so much fun.
Oh, good. She seems like it. She's really honest in her writing. But anyways, yeah, congratulations. But I also read that, they're kind of, we'll start getting into talking about the Amazon River dolphins a little bit, if that's okay, because
absolutely,
I'm excited to learn more.
My favorite topic.
But they're considered, or I'm sure they still are, like kind of mythical creatures, aren't they? Like, they kind of have this kind of magical feel. From what I read from the first parts of Cy's book, It was amazing. As she said that, like, when they come out of the water and they look at you, it feels like you're looking at another human. And part of that could be, of course, their intelligence and so, but yeah.
Well, what's really neat about them is there is this myth, there is this legend of the Boto, which is what they call them in Brazil. And they have believed for a very long time that the river dolphin is a shapeshifter. Oh. Yeah. And so where they might have these parties, these fiestas at night, and, the sun has gone down, everyone has been working really hard, out fishing all day, or whatever the case may be, in these little communities, in these little villages, they might be having a fiesta and everybody is out having a good time. And then this strange man will walk in, and he is very handsome. And he charms and he seduces all of the women, and he takes one unsuspecting woman back into the water, and they say that he takes them into an underwater enchanted world. It's called Encantado.
Oh, okay.
And they always say that this stranger is wearing a white hat, and the reason that he's wearing a hat is to cover the blowhole. So this legend has been around for a very long time. So down there are certainly elders that still believe in this and think that they do have magical, mystical powers.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love that story. So what does Boto mean? Is it dolphin in Brazil?
Because there's another word, golfinho, which is for the dolphins, but that's more for the oceanic species. So Boto is just what they call them locally. And there's also Boto vermelho, which means red dolphin, because they do look red, as you saw in that opening video, because the water is so dark, they can look red in some parts of the river. So they have a few local names, but mostly it's Boto.
Okay. Let's talk about, like, a little more, give us some fun facts about Amazon River dolphins. Like, what makes them different from some of the other dolphins that we may be familiar with, like in the Pacific Ocean or something?
Yeah, so most everybody is really familiar with Flipper, which is our bottlenose dolphin. So that's the dolphin that most people can relate to. So if we're talking about kind of a comparing contrast with that species, the river dolphins are just these really neat, prehistoric kind of stand by themselves type of animal. We're all familiar with that rostrum, which is like the beak at the front of their front of their face.
Actually, I have a picture.
We call that a rostrum.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, like that.
That is called the rostrum.
Okay.
And with the Amazon River dolphin, it is extremely elongated. It is a lot longer than we know just with the bottlenose dolphins. And what's really cool about them, one thing that a lot of people don't know about dolphins in general, because they are mammals, one of the characteristics of mammals is that we have hair, right? And on the bottlenose dolphins, they have that hair when they're born, and it falls off after a few days. It's right on their rostrum. But the Amazon river dolphin is the only species where they keep that hair on their rostrum through their adulthood.
Oh, really?
So that sets them apart
you
from
can't
all
even
the other
see
animals.
Them. Can you see the picture I'm showing with the teeth?
Yes.
That looks different than the teeth I've seen in other dolphins, too.
Yes. So this is actually something else that's very unique to them. So with our bottlenose dolphins, they have cone-shaped teeth, right? All of their teeth look like upside-down ice cream cones. The Amazon river dolphins have two different types of teeth. They have the cone-shaped teeth in the front, and then in the back, they have molar-like teeth. The river dolphins, they not only eat fish, but they have been known to eat, they eat the larger fish, like the armored catfish, but they also eat crabs and sometimes turtles as well. So that those back teeth, those molar, will help them with that type of food.
Wow, they can go through the shell of a turtle.
They can.
Wow.
They can. Wow. These guys, they have about 120 teeth.
That's amazing. So I also read they're kind of a pink color. Are they always a pink color, or are they? Or do they start out gray?
Another super cool thing about them, when they are born, they are completely gray.
Oh.
They are completely gray. But as they get older, they do change color because they have a lot of scarring. So more specifically with the males tend to be more pink. Because when they're sparring, or if they're just roughhousing, or if they're competing with other males for the love and attention of some pretty female, they tend to fight quite a bit. And with that scarring, when they bite and scratch each other up, it will leave some scar tissue, which turns pink.
I also read, you can tell me if this is true, that do they blush when they get emotional? Will you see them actually get more pink?
They do, yes.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, especially on their belly, you can see that.
Oh, that's great. So they're in the river in the Amazon swimming around. They're like other dolphins. They're pretty athletic. They're acrobatic. They like to jump up and flip and all that as well.
Not the Amazon river dolphins.
Oh, really?
They don't do they will kind of jump up and twist.
Okay.
And another really fun fact about them is that they have an unfused neck vertebrae.
Oh.
So they can turn their heads in any direction almost 90 degrees. So it makes them very flexible.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you might see them jump out of the water, but I see them more twist and turn and things of that nature. You don't see that real pretty bow that we see with some of the other species. Certainly not as high anyway.
Oh, okay. And are they smaller or bigger than, say, like a bottlenose dolphin?
They're about the same. They can be a little bit larger than the Atlantic bottlenose dolphin, but the Amazon river dolphin gets to be between 5 and 8 feet.
Oh, wow. They get to, how many pounds roughly do you think they weigh?
About 350 on average. Okay. There are some that can get, there are certainly recorded cases of weighing more than that. So on an average, they weigh about 350 pounds.
That's pretty good size, yeah.
Yeah.
Do they like to range through the different countries associated with like the Amazon river system? Is it Brazil, Colombia? I'm trying to think.
Brazil, Colombia, Peru, Ecuador. Bolivia. I think we got them all. Colombia, Peru. Yep.
Oh, okay.
So all of those neighboring countries.
So do they travel that whole range, or do they stay in like one specific area?
We don't know a whole lot about site fidelity. They will travel a little bit, but there are 3 subspecies. So you might find one species. So for example, when I go down there, I go to Amazonas and I go to Manaus, which is the capital of Amazonas. That species is going to be different than the animals that you see in Bolivia. Okay. So it's just they're just different subspecies. But so even though you see the range is pretty big, they're different species.
Oh, okay. Okay. So are they solitary or do they stay in pods usually?
They're not solitary, but they do stay in much smaller groups than other species of dolphins. They tend to stay more in groups of like 2 to 6, which is very small in comparison to some other dolphin species.
Aw. What was the first, do you remember your first Amazon River dolphin you've seen? What was the very first experience like for you?
I remember it clearly. It was my very first trip to Brazil was back in 1997. And there is a group of habituated river dolphins in an area of the Rio Negro. And that was the first time that I saw a river dolphin up close. And I could not believe my eyes between this long rostrum, just their coloring, just their teeth, just everything. And even their pectoral fins, which are those fins on the side, they're enormous. They are really big, and they can move them independently of one another. So just everything about these animals just struck me just right from the very beginning.
Yeah. And so oops, I just bumped my camera. But you started the Amazon River Dolphin Conservation Foundation in 2014, right? So it was quite a difference in time. So yeah. Did you keep traveling to Brazil after that first experience, or?
After that first experience, I fell in love with Brazil immediately, and I went back to Brazil about 3 months later.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it and tried very hard to get back and tried to figure out ways to work down there. Yeah. And I landed a job in Peru. So I was down in Peru for a while. And then when I came back to the States after my contract ended and my visa expired, I came back to the country and I went back to working with dolphins and other marine mammals and other taxa in this country. And a long time went by. And then back in 2013, I was asked to go back to Brazil again. Okay. And that time I just got hooked. And I have not stopped going back. And I go about 3 or 4 times a year now.
Oh, terrific. Yeah, is this usually a time of year that you're down there in the spring? When it's
getting close.
Yeah.
I try to spread it out as much as I possibly can. We have groups that we take down twice a year. And when I'm not taking a group, I'm down in Brazil working on different research projects with the Amazon River dolphins. And the bulk of that research work is done in June and July. So I'm kind of just at a standstill right now, like everybody else, trying to figure out what is the next step and when this will be able to happen and get back on track.
Terrific. Do you have people on the ground in Brazil doing work for you or with you that you can communicate? Oh, you don't? Okay.
I communicate with them daily. I have a lot of folks down there, but until I get down there, no one is working on the project right now. And in fact, in Brazil, because they have had quite an outbreak as well, they have stopped all of their tourist activities. They have closed all of the national parks. All of the Amazon River boat traffic has been suspended. So there isn't anything going on right now down there.
Yeah, that's harsh. So
yeah, it's quite a situation for the world.
Oh, I know. And yeah. So we're not the only ones. So that must be really difficult in some of those communities that rely on the river and tourism and probably river fishing and such too, right? So
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And I imagine, some of these smaller riverside communities, I'm sure they are, maybe not on the main river, but in the little tributaries and little waterways that they have around their homes and around their communities. I am sure that they are out fishing so that that everyone can eat and whatnot, but they certainly cannot get to the cities. They cannot, go and sell their fish or anything like that. So I have people who can kind of keep an eye on them. So I've been able to get word, and I know that everyone is okay. But of course, you may have heard some of the stories where There have been people that have gone in to try to help, like some of the indigenous tribes. And coronavirus is showing up now in some of the indigenous societies. So I hope that the folks down there that I interact with all the time, I just hope that they're safe in kind of their little bubble and stay safe until we get to the other side of this.
Yep. Yeah, me too. Yeah, that's got to be hard. And I know, so you mentioned you took a couple groups down a year. Is that the tour groups? I know you also do tours, or are those research groups?
Yeah, we take, so usually twice a year, I take up to about 20 people down to the Amazon, and we spend 10 days on a boat. And I take them around the Amazon, and I show them where we do our research and what kind of research we're working on. And even though our big focus is on the river dolphin, we really do believe that the environment and the people, it's just really an all-encompassing project. Yeah. So we might share the dolphins and the knowledge of the dolphins with everyone, but we also do a lot of bird watching. We go fishing. We'll see sloths. We go snorkeling. We do hikes in the rainforest. So there's a lot of different things that we do, and we take people. You know, a lot of times, of course, we get biologists and other animal care professionals. But we've also taken teachers and lawyers, people who would just like to travel and like a little adventure, or would like to learn about another culture.
Oh, that's great. Are these big groups, or how many people did you say? I don't know if you said.
We take about 20.
20, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the environment there, and there's a pretty diverse environment of plant life, animal life, and local people life. Yeah. So how is your foundation tying all this together? What kind of research are you doing?
So we have a lot of things. We have a lot of things happening at once. Yeah. So
a lot of groups do. Yeah.
Yeah. We have, of course, a main component is conservation education. Yeah. Where we are focused is not, the folks are involved in some different types of projects. There's a turtle conservation project. There's a fish conservation project down there. So there is a lot of pride in their environment, which is wonderful. So we kind of build from that and help to teach them even more about the Amazon river dolphins and the environment in general, and why the Amazon ecosystem is so important, not only to them and to Brazil, but how it affects the rest of the world as well. And I always say that without those folks, if they don't believe in this project, then it's almost not worth doing. Right? Because it's their community, it's their country.
They have to hold it up.
They have to buy into it as well. And we've done that over the years, and a lot of these folks have become my Brazilian family members, and I stay in their homes, and I've watched their children grow up.
Nice.
So it's been really wonderful, because there are other areas of the Amazon further north, closer towards Peru and Colombia, where they illegally hunt and kill dolphins.
They do. I was going to ask that if that happens. Okay. What do they do? Meat? Is it the meat, or?
Well, yes and no. Yeah. So they typically kill them with machetes and with harpoons, and they use them as bait for catfish.
Oh my God.
They will stuff the dolphins into these big wooden boxes, and they'll catch a fish. It's called piracachinga, type of catfish. And because the Botos are fatty and they're oily, even though you can use just about anything to catch a catfish, because the river dolphin meat is different and has those different components, they know that they will be able to catch more piracachinga. And the Brazilians tend to not eat the piracachinga. The demand is coming from neighboring countries. So they will clean that fish, and then they will send it upriver and out of the country.
Oh man, such a waste. Yeah,
It's terrible.
Yeah, are these Amazon River dolphins threatened or endangered?
So they are endangered. Up until 2018, they were considered data deficient, which means nobody really had any clue how many there
Yeah.
were. And then in November of 2018, it was finally decided and recognized by IUCN that these animals were in a lot of trouble,
Yeah.
and scientists are seeing a declining trend. So they were listed in November of 2018 as an endangered species.
Wow. Yeah, so they're facing a lot of challenges, like just even in Sai's introduction in 2008 in her book, she's like, we need to take urgent action now because the Amazon forests are disappearing at alarming rates. And I'd hate to ask what's happening now 12 years later. I'm sure it's still disappearing quite rapidly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And at the time when Sai wrote that
Yeah.
is when the Baiji was listed as functionally extinct, which is an Asian river dolphin.
Yeah. Oh,
And
that's right.
that river dolphin was facing all the same things as the Amazon river dolphin: habitat degradation, habitat destruction, overfishing, pollution, all of these things that is a crisis found worldwide, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you have this added challenge for the Amazon river dolphins where they are being hunted and slaughtered essentially. And there are some areas that are very small where it is believed upwards of 2,000 dolphins are being killed per year.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there was a lot of light that was brought to this issue back in 2015. There was some footage that some news outlets were able to get a hold of, and they showed it on an internationally watched program in Brazil. And the country was outraged, as they should have been, rightfully so.
Right.
And they placed a moratorium on the fishing of Piracichinga, which then in turn would help stop the slaughter of the Amazon river dolphins. And that moratorium was supposed to be placed, it was in place for 5 years.
Yeah.
And that moratorium expired December 31st of 2019. And everybody had gone about their life for the past 5 years and had found different methods of things and different ways to survive. And so we had hoped that this moratorium would just get an extension.
Right.
And what ended up happening is it got lifted.
Oh no.
So they are now able to fish for Piracichinga again, which naturally we can assume that the river dolphin is being hunted once again, even though that part of the equation is supposed to be illegal.
Right, yeah, because they're endangered. And it's a deep cultural thing, I'm sure, to just kind of in these people to do that, I'm sure, which is hard to change. Wow.
It's hard to change, and also one thing that I really believe is you can't go down there. You hear this all the time of people going into different areas, especially where there's cultural differences, and telling people not to do this and not to do that.
Yeah.
I do not do that.
Yeah.
I know that it's wrong, but I would not propose going in there without offering some type of solution for these riverside communities that depend so greatly on this way of life. So that's something that we focus on in another area where we are, and we talk about, why the river dolphins are so important, and we just focus more on their way of life and other things that they can do to continue that way without disrupting the river dolphins or the great circle of life, as it may be.
Yeah.
And keep everything in check.
Yeah, that's the only way it can be sustainable, I would think. You got to offer them something. It's kind of like
you can't just tell them to stop and think that everything's going to be okay.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of relates to like this pandemic thing with the live markets. You can say, no, don't do that. But, that's a deep cultural thing, too, that they need to find an alternative. But, yeah, if you just ban it, it goes underground, and then you can't control it. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
hard. So do river dolphins have a natural predator? I mean, except us and
just us.
Just us, really.
Just us.
So like jaguars can't, oh, they can't swim up?
I mean, they could.
Yeah.
Jaguars are great swimmers, but that's typically not what they go for. I would venture a guess that you'd be more likely to see a caiman.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
Collision, but the caiman are after other things as well. But you've got some pretty big caiman down there, and they've got the black caiman and the spectacled caiman. So they may go for some younger, some smaller ones, but it's mostly us that they need to watch out for.
Wow. So I wanted to ask, how does it relate with like the Amazon rainforest disappearing with biodiversity? How does that affect the dolphins and the fish in the water as far as keeping them going? Right. I know people have asked me that before, and I can't give an educated answer. So.
Yeah, so there is a high water season and a low water season. So in the low water, it's just this main channel, and that's where you're going to find all your water species. You're going to find all your giant river otters. You're going to find your Amazon river dolphins. There's another species of river dolphin in that area too.
Oh, okay.
It's called the tucuxi. And it looks like a little baby bottlenose dolphin.
Really?
They are just as cute as can be. Yes.
Are they tiny or?
They're not super tiny, but they're not as big as the Amazon river dolphin.
Oh, fun.
And they're not big as the big bottlenose dolphin. So they're really neat. Yeah. So during low water, we can see all of these animals. But then as the water starts to rise, and it can be a 30 to 40 foot difference. Wow. It's really neat to see how drastic it is.
Yeah.
But as the water rises, right, the fish leave first. The fish want to get into the forest so they have more shelter.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Protect themselves a little bit more. So the river dolphins follow them in because that's where their food source is, and they can be more hidden as well. And that's probably when they start to do their birthing, and because it's much safer area. But so think of that full circle. But if those forests are then being destroyed, the fish have no place to go. The dolphins then have no food source. So again, it's a big
circle.
Cycle. And it's really funny when you think of, well, how do the forests affect the river dolphin?
Right,
That doesn't even make sense. And the first time I saw it, like I knew that river dolphins go into the rainforest, even as strange as that sounds. But I remember the first time I saw it, and it was just a couple years ago. I was standing in knee-deep water, taking some pictures in the flooded forest, and sure enough, 2 dolphins swam right past me, and they were off fishing. And it's crazy. You're in the middle of a forest, and a dolphin just goes right past you. But that's why deforestation not only affects, all of your primates, your squirrel monkeys, your red howlers, black howler monkeys, and your sloths, but it does actually then start to affect all of your aquatic species as well.
Yeah, it's terrible. So is it Manaus? That was really kind of decimated way back, wasn't it, for rubber tree?
It was back in the late 1800s, the big rubber boom.
Yeah, is it still, has any of it come back, or is there still a lot of forestation there, or foresting?
There's still a lot of big rubber trees there that we get to see, and we show people, on our groups how and why, how those rubber trees are used. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But it's not anywhere near where that boom was. So, over 100 years ago, we had Europeans, flocking to Brazil, flocking to Manaus. And that's why Manaus actually wasn't even the first capital of Amazonas, but because of the rubber boom and because of where they were located on the river, that's how Manaus became the capital of Amazonas.
Yeah, that was amazing. Stories of diamonds just kind of being tipped to waiters and restaurants because money was just flowing in, and just crazy.
Exactly.
Crazy
and
time.
That's how they ended up getting their opera house with all of the Europeans coming in and the influence from over there. They have a beautiful opera house there. But back then there was just this grand, extravagant lifestyle that you certainly don't see anymore, but it must have been something to see back then.
Yeah, I tried to look up pictures. I didn't find any, but I just found out about it like yesterday. So yeah.
I have seen some really cool old photos, not only in the Opera House itself, but in different tiny little museums around Manaus. It's really fascinating.
That is cool. Well, we'll get back to the river dolphins. You mentioned they may go into the forest to do their birthing. How often do they birth and such? Is it?
They do it once per year, and then it will take, and then they won't do it again for a few more years. So because the calves do stay with the moms for a year or two, so it makes sense that their cycle, they wouldn't calf again for another few years.
Wow, yeah, and I assume it's one calf at a time, right?
Yeah.
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 So how long without any interference, if it was a beautiful world with no harm or challenges, how long would a river dolphin live roughly in the wild?
Probably about 20. That's an average. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
They live on average about 20 years, which means, again, using that average, kind of like we talked about with the weight earlier.
Yeah.
Some of them, of course, will live a little bit longer. I've heard some great stories down there. And then there are some, for whatever challenges they may come across in their life, may not live that long at all.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, that's interesting. So what do you have going on coming up soon? Well, I know we can't travel for a little while yet,
so
unfortunately.
we're supposed to have a trip planned in June. And so as we all just kind of wait with the rest of the world to see what happens, we'll probably ultimately just reschedule that. And then that also includes my research. Like I mentioned, the bulk is done during our summertime in July. So I think it's probably pretty realistic to assume that that's not going to happen at that time this year. But that just opens up for another time. And like I said, that's just the bulk of the work. It doesn't mean that I don't go down other times. So I'm just going to have to be a little more creative and figure out some other times. And it might be a really good opportunity to collect even more data.
Right.
In December or January when I go down and collect data, I don't collect as much. So it might be neat to start collecting more data in December or January and have that to contrast with June or July and see how different the numbers are, because we're doing photo identification of individuals.
Oh, okay.
So I log down
all.
Yeah, but we know quite a lot of them, and we have a pretty extensive catalog of about 25 individuals at this point, and it's neat because we're doing that, but as we're taking in all of these photos and sorting out who is who, it gives us an opportunity to also conduct population surveys as well in that area.
Yeah.
And a lot of what we're doing during July because it's high water. So we're doing that, like I said, with the conservation education, and we're starting to now branch off. We're starting to get more of this data. So we have hydrophones as well.
I wanted to ask about that. Yeah.
We have when people, thank goodness, we have wonderful donors that donate to the foundation, and we're able to buy these really cool hydrophones. So we're starting to use hydrophones with the animals, and we're getting recordings of not only the Amazon river dolphin, but on the tucuxi as well. So we have a great advisory member on our board as well, Dr. Erin Frick, who is a bioacoustician, and she can analyze all of that. So she's been starting to look at that with some of her students, which is going to be neat. And what's another great idea is possibly we'd like to figure out if we can use those recordings to supplement our population survey.
Oh, right.
So as we have the people that are analyzing the recordings, how many dolphins are you hearing within that range? So whereas I might be sitting in a canoe taking photographs, and my Brazilian assistant might be at the back of a canoe with a hydrophone in, and we might only see 1 or 2 dolphins. But when we send those recordings back, are they actually detecting more like 10 to 12 dolphins? Because they do have individual calls.
I was going to ask that.
noises.
Like, how do you tell? Yeah.
So it'd be really neat to tie all of that in together. And last year we started using a drone as well. We have another Brazilian resident that we work with down in Manaus. He is a videographer and he has got some great drone equipment. So he came out with us last year, Don McConnell from McConnell Productions, and took some fantastic drone footage because we weren't sure. Again, the water is so dark. So my view from the canoe is very different, but we weren't sure what we were going to be able to see with a bird's eye.
Yeah.
So we had him come out for a day just to kind of figure out, you know, is this something plausible down the line?
Yeah.
Is it something that we can also tie into the population study? And it can also help us with behavioral observations as well, because what I might be able to see from my seat, we can maybe get a completely different story from the drone. So it'd be really neat to start tying in all these different devices and technological things and put all the pieces of the puzzle together.
Exactly. And we have some of that footage. So everybody, we're going to close out when we close out. And it's about 1 minute and 15 seconds long, I think. It's a beautiful footage of the drone, or the drone footage with the dolphins swimming and such. So I'm afraid if I play it now, I may lose you completely.
Yeah, it was amazing what Dawn was able to capture that day. And then we got back and did some editing and we're like, oh, this might actually work. This is pretty cool stuff.
That is really cool. Yeah, the water looks so dark and you see their pink bodies just kind of coming up and turning around. It's beautiful.
Yeah, so, and then just like that, they're gone, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It only takes about 2 feet and then they just disappear.
That's amazing. So how many dolphin are left? You may have said this, but I didn't catch it.
Okay. No, we didn't talk about total numbers. Yeah. So estimated counts are in the tens of thousands.
Oh, okay.
Right now. And that's really hard to tell. But again, even let's say 50,000 animals, that's really in the grand scheme of things, that's not a lot. If you even look at what we talk about with the population of giraffe and the population of elephants, and we're talking about hundreds of thousands, but just like the Amazon river dolphin, all the other factors aside, if you're talking about just this illegal hunting and you're wiping out 2,000 animals in just a year, you know, the odds are against them. Yeah. So we certainly are working hard to get more numbers and collect that data, because the Amazon's pretty vast, right?
Yeah.
So you do have this, you know, this initial channel, you know, which is the Amazon River, but you have all of these little inlets and waterways and these little islands and sandbars, depending on the time of year. So they can be almost anywhere. But,
so there's a capacity to hold them all.
But we all work together down there, and a lot of them have grown up on the river, and that's their whole life, and that's what they know. So they know exactly what I'm looking for in terms of, you know, from a scientist's point of view, and they know exactly what I need and they know how to go about getting it. So it's this really great relationship, and we go out and we tackle it, and we get all the information and all the data that we need to start putting it together.
I was going to ask you, if we can't answer your questions here, is there a way that they can contact you with questions if they have anything about the river dolphin?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. They can certainly, since everybody's right here on Facebook, we are certainly most active on our Facebook page, which is, of course, the Amazon River Dolphin Conservation Foundation. But then through that, you can contact me through that. And then there's also, you can find our website through the Facebook page, which is ardcf.org. Yeah. And you can email me right through the website as well. So a couple of different ways that folks can get a hold of me and ask questions or find out about a trip. Once this passes us, I hope a lot of people are going to be wanting to get out and travel the world, and hopefully they can join us on the Amazon maybe in 2021.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, I know the travel, as soon as we're free to travel, it's going to go crazy, I think. So
I think so.
I hope so anyways. But yeah. So is there any other way that we can help, you know, with the foundation, with how can we be mindful of what's going on, as, with all of it? So.
Yeah, certainly, we talked about the donations first and foremost, which is real easy to do through our website. And those donations go to all of our field equipment, whether that's the cameras and the long lenses that we need to find these animals. It could be field binoculars. It could be GPS units that we need so we can mark where we are and mark where we saw animals, at that time, so we can go back on our next trip. It goes to our GoPro cameras. It goes to the drone equipment. It goes to the hydrophones. So it goes to our canoes, and it goes to our Brazilian assistants. Which is a great cause, because we love to be able to support those folks in a very positive and constructive manner.
Right.
Because if they can't, work in a way that is helpful and beneficial to the environment, there's other things that they will go towards, which unfortunately might be agriculture. It might be, there's a lot of illegal mining going on in those industries. Directly strip the rainforest. So we try to find ways. That's why we only use Brazilian residents for our projects. So all of those donations go directly to that. When people join our trips, that's a great way, because again, ecotourism, and we certainly operate on a very responsible ecotour group. I'm there with every group. I work with a great bunch of people on the boat.
Yeah.
So just being able to go down and see the Amazon, and you get this wonderful, unique experience of a lifetime.
I want to go.
But you get to interact with, with the Brazilians that are on the boat. My crew is amazing. I have the best crew on the entire Amazon.
Nice.
But then we take you into these riverside communities too. And when I invite you to come on these expeditions with us, I ask people to bring school notebooks in clothes that we share with these riverside communities as well. So there's a lot of different ways that people can get involved.
That's terrific. Well, thank you. I know we're getting close to running out of time, and whoever's listening, I'm going to run a beautiful drone footage when we say goodbye, so stick around for that. But I wanted to thank you, Suzanne, for everything you're doing. Yeah, thanks for all you do.
Thank you so much for having me and taking the time to talk about the Amazon River dolphins, because they need a lot of help.
I'm falling in love with them as I'm reading and learning more. Yeah, they are really cool. So what is the first thing you're going to do when you're out of shelter in place? Do you have an idea?
I'm gonna book my ticket.
Travel, yeah.
As soon as I can get to Brazil, I'm going to. But in the meantime, I'm having a good time, sorting through all of my field pictures and posting those on our Facebook page, in the videos and things like that, and hopefully just finding great people like you and making new friends and be able to have the opportunity to share the story with you and your listeners, and so people can find ways to help.
Yay. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Well, I'll keep up with what you're doing. I'm following along with you. Yeah, and hopefully...
I'd love to get you on the boat.
I would love to, too. I think the experience would be fabulous. Yeah.
But you have your own every cabin has air conditioning. Yeah. And I'll give you one last tip, too.
Okay.
So you're right. I'm here in New Orleans, and I've got enough problems with mosquitoes right here.
Yeah.
I don't need to deal with that when I go to Brazil. So where I work, and we do all of our research and where we travel, the water is so acidic that the insects actually don't thrive.
Oh, okay.
So
interesting.
You can spritz a little, insect repellent, and that's it.
Nice.
Mosquitoes are not a problem when I go down there. And when I'm doing my research, I live in a hammock for 8 to 10 days out on the river. I don't worry about mosquitoes.
Okay, I'm there. You talked me into it. As soon as we can travel. Yeah. Yeah, mosquitoes were the worst for me in New Orleans. That was my only fear. Yeah. So
here.
Yeah.
I go to the rainforest to get away from the mosquitoes.
Exactly. Well, good for you. Well, thank you so much. And I'm going to play this beautiful drone footage, and I hope to talk to you soon and keep in touch. So
thank you for sure. We will definitely keep in touch. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone for joining us.
Thank you for listening to Be Provided Conservation Radio. Links and resources to today's topic are in our show notes on iTunes. We appreciate your dedication and interest in protecting our natural world for future generations. If you like what you heard, please get involved by volunteering, donating, and sharing these podcasts with your friends. It also helps us to inform more people if you take a minute to leave a rating or review on iTunes. Have a great day, and thank you for listening to Be Provided Conservation Radio.